Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Big Mouth, and welcome to the Big Mouth Daily Live. This is what Zack Snyder dropped yesterday. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. So yesterday, Zack Snyder dropped this. So let's take a look at this. Roots of the Nightmare. Now, why is he dropping this? A lot of Snyder fans were getting very excited last night, hashtagging Restore the Snyderverse. Could something be happening? What does he mean, Roots of the Nightmare? Now, of course, this is a sequence from Man of Steel. This Bobcat, hey Mickey, good morning, Bobcat, good evening from where you are. It's morning here, it's evening where you are, or early hours of the morning where you are. A very good morning to you, Bobcat. So this sequence is from Man of Steel. It's when Zod does something to Clark, right, and he takes him into some kind of trance, and he's got a black costume on. Now, obviously, Snyder kind of knew what he was doing, what he wanted to do, and he says this is the roots of the Nightmare sequence, which is very interesting. Does he mean the roots of the Nightmare sequence, or the roots of his nightmare with WB? Who knows? But a lot of people got very excited from saying this. Bobcat, oh boy, more Snyder. I know, Bobcat, love that hat, Mickey. Thank you, Bobcat. So basically, we need to kind of discuss why he dropped it. Is he going to be able to restore his universe? Well, from what he said, coming out of his very own mouth, he said that Warner Brothers have moved away from him, that they don't want him, that they don't want to work with him. Then he's dropping this. I don't know. In translation, this is what I think, and this is not going to come across very well. But I have to say this, that it just looks like he's trying to tease people. He's just giving people some information that this was the roots of the Nightmare sequence, and I think maybe that's what he's talking about. But maybe he got a phone call. Maybe he's going to be able to restore the Snyderverse on HBO Max. Bobcat, I'll tell you what, Mickey, you were right again. Confidence goes a long way. Yes, of course it does. If people see you're confident, now sometimes confidence can trigger people who don't have confidence. I get it myself on social media. I get hate for my confidence and some of the blatant insane things that I say. But at the end of the day, of course, confidence does go a long way in life. I'm not saying that if you don't have it, you're not a worthwhile person. I grew up having no confidence in myself. I was a very, very shy young man, and as a 17-year-old boy, I started work at the Co-op, and I noticed people around me being nice to me. And you know what that did? That made me confident in myself. I started putting gel in my hair. I cared about my appearance for the first time in my life. I had a crush on a girl called Sharon. I started smoking because she was smoking and offering me cigarettes, and I kept on saying no. And in the end, I said yes. And she had a boyfriend, but she fancied me and I fancied her, and things were going on in the staff room that shouldn't have been going on, very unhygienic on the table. But it was fun and it was an exciting time because I was a late developer in terms of sex, right? So I lost my innocence at 17 years old. And I'm going to tell you something that may lose me subscribers. My first sexual experience was with my girlfriend's mother and her best friend. They were in their late 30s and I was 17. So that's how I lost my innocence. Now, a lot of people are not going to like hearing that. A lot of people are going to say, this is about entertainment and DC, Mick. Why are you saying this? This is the kind of honest stuff that I say. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And I'll tell you something, that educated me, and it's made me the great lover I am today. Anyway, let's go back to talking about Zack Snyder. Much more interesting than talking about my illicit, immoral sexual activities. Anyway, so he's dropped this. Now, I think that Zack Snyder is one of those people in the industry who knows where the bodies are buried. He knows. He knows things about people at WB. It's obvious. How did he get the Snyder Cut release? Please don't tell me it was because of us. He manipulated that whole situation. Of course he did, right? He manipulated Subway, tweeting release the Snyder Cut. Of course he did. Fans actually think that's because of them. It wasn't because of them. It wasn't. He has got dirt on people at WB. That's why I feel that maybe he's dropped this to hint that there's still a chance of something happening. It actually wouldn't surprise me if eventually Zack Snyder restores the Snyderverse. Who knows? I'm going to have to get rid of this hat because I'm quite hot now. Bloody hell, I thought with the aircon on, I'd be all right. But Jesus Christ, that was hot. But I love that hat. That hat means a lot to me. It's all part of my Superman fandom. Bobcat, someone needs to recreate Agatha all along with Zack Snyder instead. It was Snyder all along. I still think that Agatha wasn't the greatest of villains. I like the actor, I like the character, but I think that Wanda being the Phase 4 villain would have been kind of interesting, and that's the kind of direction. Of course, it's Loki Day today. I'm very excited. Bobcat, is Loki on Disney Plus yet, or do we have to wait? I don't think it is, right? Someone find that out for me. I'll be watching Loki and reacting to it tonight here on my live stream, Big Mouth Live, so don't forget to miss that. I think we're getting 2 episodes, am I right? So I'm very excited. I think Loki is absolutely a great character and one of the better elements of the MCU. He's more than just a villain, of course. Bobcat, 51 minutes. So it's live in 51 minutes. That's very exciting. I shall be watching it, I think, around lunchtime, and I'll be reacting to that on Twitter, then tonight on Big Mouth Live. Richie Mo, morning, Mick. Morning, Richie. It's always good to see my mate Richie on the live stream, as it is my mate Bobcat. Don't think I'm leaving you out, Bobcat. I actually love all my regulars. And if anyone's new, behind the scenes, watching this, a bit afraid to talk, don't be afraid. Your views will be respected and debated. I won't always agree with you, but I'll disagree with you in a respectful manner, apart from the one time where I stood up and gave someone the finger. But I'll try and do that as little as possible, right? So, I believe that the restoration of the Snyderverse, and I keep on changing my stance on this, is possible. Bobcat, just like my Birds of Prey opinion, lol. Exactly, I did try and be respectful. I hope I was as respectful as possible. But you are a passionate guy, Bobcat, and so am I. So at the end of the day, it's all right to get a little bit heated. It wasn't like I was insulting you or anything. I was just pretty much, all right, I did say you've been raised on mediocrity. That was a bit below the belt. But I think your generation, in terms of entertainment, have been raised on mediocrity. So your levels of great are not that high. My levels of great are North and South, starring Patrick Swayze, the sci-fi alien invasion series, The A-Team, Knight Rider, E.T., Back to the Future. What have you got? What have you got these days? Just a bunch of comic book adapted movies, right? Bobcat, oh yeah, I know, it was a fun conversation. I love debating films. As do I. We're friends, Bobcat, but we don't have to always agree. This generation needs to understand that. We don't always have to agree to be friends, right? And it's cool. You're not going to sit there and go, yeah, Mick. And I'm not going to say that going, oh, Bobcat, yeah, you're right. No, that's not what life's about. We have Wonder Woman, lol. I don't understand. Anyway, you have Wonder Woman, yeah. Basically, you've got a bunch of stuff that's adaptations. Everything's an adaptation. Everything's inspired from something that's already been. There's very little originality, and I like that stuff, as you know. Look at me, right? I love the DCEU. I even love the MCU, right? But we need more. And we're getting an Indiana Jones movie. But they should have stopped making Indiana Jones movie after the 3rd one. They stopped making Back to the Future after the 3rd one. George Lucas didn't want to make any Star Wars after Return of the Jedi, but he came back and done the prequels. Look what the bastards did to him after that. And actually, George's 6 movies are fucking epic. Talk to the fucking wall, right? Anyway, so I think Zack Snyder's dropped this for a reason. I think he does know where the bodies are buried. I still think there's a chance to restore the Snyderverse. And if that's what you want to, because I want it as well, I'll be honest, on a corner over on HBO Max, of course. And I will always, hashtag restore the Snyderverse, but I always will be balanced about Snyder. And I always will say he should never have been given the keys to the kingdom. He should, there should be a place for Zack Snyder in DC live action. Of course there should. Look at the stuff he makes. Look, the guy is a beautiful cinematographer. He is. That's what he's good at. cinematography, but be in charge of a universe? No, there has to be someone to say no sometimes, Zach. You can't have everything your own way, but I think there's always a chance to restore the Snyderverse, so keep on fighting. Right, we move to our articles of the day. Bobcat, we have Harley Quinn as well, which is the best character to me. Yeah, and that's great. But again, it's an adapted character. Where's the originality? I want to see brand new female characters. Bobcat, let Harley live. She's alive. Anyway, let's go to the articles of the day. This is the place, the Big Mouth Daily, every morning, 7 days a week, where we go through the articles. I update you on what's going on in entertainment. It's the only place that will do that. None of these other DC YouTubers do that. The Snyder ones or other ones, I don't know. Is anyone online now doing this? No. So this is the place to be. This is the place where your voice will be heard. Bobcat, Harley is a new original character. Well, she was created in animation, of course she is, but she's pre-existing, Bobcat. That's what I'm trying to say. We need originality, Bobcat, as well as the adaptions. We need a balance, or this industry is going to die. Right, we're going to talk Superman and Lois. So this is from CBR.com, Comic Book Resources. Superman and Lois, Eric Valdez breaks down Kyle Cushing's big twist. Now, this is a spoiler from the latest episode of Superman and Lois. I have not been able to watch this show since episode 5, so I'm spoiling it for myself before you start moaning. But I don't care because I want to know what's going on. I love the first 5 episodes, and I'm definitely buying the Blu-ray box set when it comes out, so I can binge it from the very beginning. I mean, Air reinvented Harley in some ways. He did in a way. He made like a live-action character instead of an animation. Air did a great job, by the way. And that's the version that I stand. That's the best version. And I don't agree with what he did, her bending over, being a bit sexual. He was wrong there. That was wrong. And I understand why Margot's upset about that. But, you know, the characterization of her was at its best in that movie. Anyway, Superman and Lois star Eric Valdez broke down what this twist means for Kyle Cushing, how it changes his approach to portraying the character, and more by Megan Demore of CBR.com. Spoiler warning, this article contains major spoilers for loyal subjects. The latest episode of Superman and Lois. Kyle Cushing is in a world of trouble and he's just beginning to realize it. In Loyal Subjects, the latest episode of Superman and Lois, he began to realize something was wrong when he blacked out and woke up in the middle of a field with no recollection of how he got there. By the way, this is an original character. I don't think he's in the comics, and he's been brilliant. Now, I've had some chats with Eric over on Twitter. He's a really good lad. He's doing a lot of the marketing himself. He did an interview. A young boy was interviewing him on the set as well. I saw a video of that this morning. And look, he's great quality, and I'm really happy with that lad. So, as he will soon discover, his decision to join Morgan Edge's special project has landed him in dire straits. After undergoing Edge's ex-kryptonite procedure, he has just opened the door for a Kryptonian entity to possess him, which means he may no longer be in control of his own actions. Speaking to CBR, Superman and Lois star Eric Valdez broke down what this twist means for Kyle moving forward. He delved into Kyle's motivations to help his community and the good intentions he has under his gruff exterior. He promised the show will explore more of Kyle's backstory, which is something which is going to be very compelling and controversial, by the way. I have been talking to some people. There is a kind of alcoholic abuse story there, a bit deeper than that, so that's going to be interesting. Maybe Kyle won't last by the end of this season. Even though the journey may be a bit of a slow burn, he also explained his different approach for Kryptonian Kyle, teased how this will impact Kyle's relationship with Lois Lane, and more. CBR, if you had to introduce Kyle Cushing to your friends, what would you tell them about him? Eric Valdez, well, there'd probably be a pretty conversation without Kyle there. Let's say that again. Well, there'd probably be a pretty conversation without Kyle there that went something like, all right, guys, look, this guy comes off a little rough. You might not quite grasp who he is. Don't judge him by the first interaction. He's a really good guy with a really big heart, with really good intentions. That said, the conversations may be a little awkward right off the bat. So let me to grab him for you. That would be the pre-conversation. The conversation would, with him sitting there and all these people there, it would be like, hey guys, this is my buddy Carl here. He's a good guy, cares a lot about his town. I just wanted to bring him out and say hey to you guys. And Carl might be like, how's it going? That may be the start of it all. Then you know he blossoms slowly, as you can see. So that will be kind of how I think it would play out. What is one aspect of Carl's character you relate to the most and why? You know I do. I'm very different than Carl, so on so many levels. I'm a lot more outgoing. I'm a pretty positive person. I think Carl is not necessarily negative, but he just has a different outlook on life. But where we kind of relate is in our upbringing. In a lot of ways, I was born and raised in Texas, and I grew up predominantly in El Paso, Texas. Yes, this is really big Latino representation on this show, and I'm so proud for Top Hell being the showrunner, really, instead of just representing the most represented minority, and we all know what that is, and they keep on complaining that they don't get enough and they want more and more. You know, Latino representation isn't high enough in Hollywood, and I'm very proud with all the Latino castings on this show. And we've also had, obviously, a black man as a big character this year, so there can be no complaints there. But obviously, black people are the most represented minority in Hollywood, and we need to represent other people. Native America hardly get any representation in Hollywood because a certain minority keeps on wanting more and more. I was born in Lubbock, Texas, but I spent a lot of my life with my grandparents through visits, etc. We were very close with them. So holidays, whatnot, I'm out on the farm outside of Lubbock, Texas. The Gaming Maniac. Sup, Mick? How's your night going? Well, my morning's going very, very well, the Gaming Maniac, because it's morning here in Cyprus. It's 9:20 a.m. I'm assuming you're from America or Australia, where it's evening. So a very nice evening to you. So where my dad grew up and went to school and everything was a town called Aberafi, Texas. Aberafi, Texas's population is probably about 1,500 to 2,000 people. So it's even smaller than Smallville, right? So I grew up around a lot of these people. And even though I don't share a lot of the same ideas and ideals as Middle American and small town America on certain levels, I understand them. I understand Carl because a lot of these folks have just never ventured anywhere in the outside world. Now, this is great, by the way, because what Eric Valdez is saying, and this is similar here, I live in a little village just outside Ayia Napa, and people haven't ventured outside this bubble. And so life's very simple to them. Now, I've been in the UK. I spent 6 months in Hollywood, and so I know a bit more about the world. So it's difficult for me sometimes to live in a village with that simplistic mentality. Kurt, Manchester United fan, Australia, glazes out. Hey, bro. Hey, Kurt. When you're in your own kind of little bubble, the only thing that really matters is those people you care about and your loved ones and your friends. So for Carl and me, that is 100% accurate. I have a lot of acquaintances in this world. I have very few friends, and then I have my family. At the end of the day, I will be friendly to anybody and everybody. But like Carl, you cross anybody that I love, and there's going to be hell to pay. I love that. I think a lot of that comes through being raised in a small town world with very little money and just having to fend for yourself and rely on those that are around you and building up this sense of community trust with your small group of people. So I think that's where he and I relate the most. Kyle obviously has a few personal demons. Will we see the show explore that further at any point? Have the writers filled you in on a bit more of his backstory that we haven't seen on the screen yet? Richie Mo, I'm off to Graft, buddy. I'm off in the morning, though, so I can have a good catch-up tomorrow. See you, Mickey. See you, Bobcat. See you, people. See you later, Richie. This is a great question. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to be pretty vague about everything, but short answer is yeah. There have been conversations about why Kyle is who Kyle is and what all happened to shape him. We will definitely explore some of that. I don't know specifically when or how. I can't really say much about it. Again, everything with Kyle is kind of a slow burn, and then there's a pivotal moments that happen here and there. I think that's going to continue to be the trend moving forward. The slow burn may be accelerated a little bit. You may start to open up a little bit more of these layers. of Kyle, but he's a hard nut to crack. I think if you go about it too quickly, just from, say, a writer's perspective or a television perspective, just to get to a certain point quicker because it's convenient, I don't think that will be doing the story of Kyle justice. So I personally am in no rush to completely peel apart these layers of Kyle. I like the idea of letting him open up a little bit at a time and letting people get a glimpse into who he is, because that's true to who the character is in real life. We've seen bits and pieces of this on the series so far, but I'd love to hear this in your own words. Why do you think Kyle is so driven towards Morgan Edge? So Kyle's motivating factor is if he sees an opportunity to take care of the people that he loves, in this case, his family in his town, because the people in Smallville mean everything to him. If he sees an opportunity to do something good for somebody else, that is a big motivating factor for Kyle. Again, there's the rough facade and the bravado and the rough edges, etc. But at the end of the day, he genuinely wants what's best for people. If he sees an opportunity that he thinks is going to benefit everybody else, genuinely, he's going to do everything he can to go after it. So in this regard, again, Kyle playing into the not having left this Smallville town bubble, there's a bit of a naive side of Kyle too. I don't know where you're from, where you were brought up, etc. But I still go back to Texas quite a bit because it's where a lot of my family is and my friends. If you go outside of Dallas, say, where we go a lot because my wife's family is from there too, out to the country, it's completely different world, right? If you dangle a shiny penny in front of someone who's never seen a shiny penny, this is brilliant, they're going to be intrigued in this case. You've got this shiny penny named Morgan Edge who is coming in, and Morgan Edge, who is coming in, and it really piques Kyle's curiosity because it's like, oh, whoa, this guy, he's worth how much money? And Kyle's probably never seen more than 5 figures in his entire life. Drop a like, people. Thank you, Richie Mo. So you've got this guy that comes in and there he's promising the world, and you've got a town that you're the fire chief of, which is a pretty big position. You're a small town celebrity in that regard. You're the local superhero, so to speak, and you get an opportunity now to bring this guy in and bring jobs to those who can't put food on their table, etc. That's what really got him going from the get-go. Then we see even in Adam Rayner's portrayal of Morgan Edge, which is phenomenal, you've got these crystal blue eyes that look at you, and then this little smile and this charm and this British accent that sounds really fancy to a country boy. And all of that is like, oh, this guy is legit. I think that's spot on, by the way. Kyle is the kind of person that if he sees something, he invests 100% of himself into it, for better or worse. I think that's been what has drawn him in and made this his big focal point, because we're starting to see some little bits of doubt here and there. But up until this point, this has been the answer for Kyle's people. So he was extremely proud of that. And not knowing that this is where it was going, he fully thought he was doing what was best for everybody that he cares about. See, I get really emotional about characters like this because I think it's fascinating to see a character like Kyle, because he starts off in the pilot. Who remembers Brad from the Superman movies who bullies Clark, and Whitney from Smallville? In the first episode, when him and Lois are having a little heated debate, it seems like this is just going to be the male arsehole, which we get a lot because of these alt-lefts running TV and entertainment right now. But as the episodes get more and more, you realise this is a complex character who does care about the people around him. And he would do anything, sacrifice anything to protect these people and make their lives better. And that's brilliant. And Eric Valdez is himself a great guy. He's so passionate about this show, about the character of Superman. But this is such an expansive show, and it's brilliant. As I say, this could be one of the best interpretations in live action of Superman. But we can only judge that a few seasons down the line, because consistency is important. That's something other Arrowverse shows haven't had. How will the events of tonight's episode change that? So leading into this episode and what's happening here, Kyle has seen a little bit of a tonal shift in his town because there are jobs and people are working and stuff. So in that regard, he's successful in what he's set out to do. But you're starting to see some doubts. Even though he doesn't really get along with Lois, He respects her, and Cole is not of a dumb guy. He's just very stubborn. So there's a little bits of Lois constantly saying, hey, he's not who you think he is. He's not who you think he is. And then Lana is starting to have these little moments of doubt because she's working for the guy and whatnot. Jesse Allen. Hey, Jesse. Good morning from Cyprus. How are you? I think it's at this transitional point where Cole is starting to see that he might not be the guy that Kyle thought he really was. Cole, being the stubborn person that he is not really quick to admit defeat or to admit that he was so wrong. So the stubbornness plays into that. While there's a little bit of a shift in starting to question things, he's not quite ready to let go of everything because he's one of those that will hold on to the horse until it bucks him off type of thing. I think that's where we're at right now. It's my understanding that the X-Kryptonite exposure changes the subject's personalities in the sense they're possessed by a Kryptonian. How did that impact the way you approached souped up Kyle? So to me, it's two different characters. You have the host, which is Kyle, that's right. This is really what happens with Lex when Zod goes into him in Smallville. In his physical form, so which is Kyle in his physical form, and that's about it. Once he's possessed, once this turn happens and he's activated, so to speak, there isn't any Kyle that's really in there. So anything that he does, says, react to, etc., is a completely different character. And that's how I approached it, and that's spot on, Eric. There's some subtleties early on that may or may not even really come across. And I purposely played it as subtle as possible because you don't want to give away the big reveal too early. But even from the moment where Emily, you see her shift in the auditorium where her daughter is performing and gets up and leaves, and that's super awkward. In that moment where she leaves and Kyle and Lana and Sarah are left standing there in a normal situation, Kyle would probably be like, wow, that's really strange. We should go check on her in a minute. Maybe after Avery's done singing because he's probably the daughters have grown up together. He likes Avery too. That little moment where there's really not a lot of hesitation in him saying, let me go check on her. That's one little subtlety of a little bit of Kyle meeting this possessed version of himself. And that's about it. Anub Hub, Aidan Rushman, Lord Mick, Anub Hub, Adan Rushman, I worship you. I'd make a terrible god. Jesse Allen, Yo Rush, Anubub, Aidan Rushman, Mick, you are God. There's that little moment of that two characters merging. Then from that point, when he goes to the farm, to the barn, at that point, he's not really Kyle at all anymore. The way that Morgan Edge has had these subjects get activated and everything, they're still until the point where they need to carry out the mission, whether it to be kill another individual or whatever for Morgan Edge. They don't sound different. They don't act different right until they need to, even though they are nowhere near related to their host. Jesse Allen, lol. So even though you still hear Kyle and Kyle's voice at the beginning of that, it'd be like, I just came from the auditorium, what's going on? And then, oh, you're pretty good with that thing. Up until the moment it sounds and looks like Kyle, but it's already not him. It's completely gone. So from a portrayal standpoint, a long-winded answer, it's an opportunity to play completely different character. That's how I approached it. And what makes it really exciting to me too for this episode and where we go from here. Anubab Adnan Rushman, God himself just read my message. Anubab Adnan Rushman, Mick the Lord of Kings. Right, I'm going to get on with this, Anubab. So unless you've got anything interesting to say. Now that he's gotten a taste of Edge's real plans, how freaked out is he on a level of 1 to call Superman? Calling Superman is still probably a last resort because it would mean Cole admitting defeat and showing weakness. He's too stubborn to do that right this second. But you see a bit of that scene when he comes back and he's all roughed up and he legitimately has no idea what happened. By the way, when he's saying, look, I was in a field, Mr. My ribs are killing me. He has no idea that Superman took him out. So this is interesting now. So there's a point when they're kind of phased out and they're back to being themselves. Obviously, once they do the thing they're told to do, That's interesting. Jesse Ellen, will you unblock Cut Air, man? Jesse Ellen, Cut Air has much respect for you. Anna Bub, Amon Rushman. Did he block you, Jesse? It's simple as this, right? And I'm going to be absolutely clear here. I don't like being DM'd. I don't really like being DM'd. I don't want to be DM'd. If you've got something to say to me, say it on a public forum, and that's it. That's why you all were blocked, because it seemed very random and there seemed no point to it. Private messages means I have no protection or you don't have any protection, and maybe that's why you came in to do the private messaging. But I'm a bit too smart up there. So if you want to talk to me on any forum, you have to do it on the main feed or don't talk to me at all. So I don't like being direct messaged. And it was a bit weird, wasn't it, the way you were talking, guys? Come on. It was like you were taking the piss. So that's my answer to that one. Again, someone like Kyle, who is in a position of power as the fire chief, he's a bit of a brutish kind of guy and a little bit of an alpha male in that regard. He's terrified, but he does not want to outwardly show it. And that's almost what makes it more interesting to me, because he's not one to really let go of power or control. He's a small town fire chief. To him, it's a big deal. When he's in the situation where he can't control it, even those situations like fires are dangerous and whatnot, he's able to get the better of them. He's able to control it. He's now in a situation where he really doesn't know what's going on. He knows something's not right, but he has no idea how to approach it. I think that is where Carl gets really scared, and the vulnerability will start to show a little bit. He doesn't know what to do, really. And above a nun Rushman. Mick, how you get all the girls? Teach us. I can't teach you a skill like that. You've either got it or you haven't. Lois's dynamic with Carl is very tight into their push and pull over Edge, and his agenda for Smallville. Since he's seen Edge's true colour, how does that change the way he sees her? How will he feel about Lana's involvement with Lois's case? Yeah, it's definitely going to bring up some tough conversations between characters, and a little bit of Carl having to eat crow, so to speak. There's going to come a point where it's inevitable. He's got to realise that, okay, maybe I wasn't 100% right about this the entire time. And my biggest opposer, Lois Lane, has been saying exactly the opposite of what I've been saying. And, there might be some truth to that. So there'll be some uncomfortableness between the two of them. And above unknown Rushman, Mick, please teach me how I impress the girls. No. But again, I think ultimately the respect and whatnot wins out. That still ties into Kyle's thing. He's not a jerk for jerk's sake. If he's wrong, he'll admit he's wrong, begrudgingly, and it might take him a minute. But he's not just going to try to find an excuse and skate around the interaction, that inevitable conversation, so to speak. It may not play out as rapidly as we might think. Or how we might think. Even if I think that's a good way of answering it without giving too much away. What is one moment or scene you just cannot wait for fans to see? Last, okay, in the vaguest way possible, episode 10 in its entirety. So that's the argument. Sorry, that's the article. And that was a great interview with Eric Valdez. I won't be a minute. So that's dealt with that. Sometimes we have to get rid of people who are not on the chat for the right reasons. I'm here to talk geek and have a laugh, but I'm not interested in people who want to mock me or talk nonsense. So bye-bye. Now you've been discarded from 2 of my platforms. Let's see what's next. Anyway, so that was a great interview with Eric Valdez, who obviously is in Superman and Lois, and he's doing a great job. And I just love the answers. They're such long answers. He really is into this role, and I think that's amazing. And I can't wait to see what happens now with his character. Now he's had this transformation. He's had the process now. So every time he's told to do something, he'll go into this trance and become the Kryptonian rather than stay the character that is Kyle. So this is going to be interesting. How is this going? What happens next after this? Can this be reversed, or will these people be like this forever and have these powers? And will Superman have to literally help these people come to terms on life on Earth? I don't really know, but it's very interesting. Todd Helbing, who ran Flash for 2 seasons, did a great job. He's doing a great job here. He's taking this Superman live action show to another level. And by the end of it all, this could be the best version of Superman on TV or film ever. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. So we go on to the next article. So there's an article about Zack Snyder here, so we're going to read that. Zack Snyder's Justice League arc would already be done if WB let him finish. Millions of fans are now calling for WB to restore the Snyderverse, but if they just hadn't stopped him before, it would be finished by now. This is a great point. They should have just let him finish it. By Michael Kennedy of Screen Rant. Millions of fans are now calling for Warner Brothers to restore the Snyderverse, but if they just hadn't stopped him before, it would be finished by now at this point. It may be safe to say that Justice League director Zack Snyder is the most controversial director in superhero movie history. Really? Interesting. Ang Lee might have something to say about that. Opinions on his work in general, and especially his DC films, tend to be sharply divided overall. Those who like movies tend to love them deeply, while they would just go away already and let others continue the franchise unbothered. Well, this is where the mistake is. Snyder should never have been running the DCEU, but Snyder is talented and he deserves a piece of DC movies or TV or whatever over on HBO Max in a corner where he can't bother anyone and it's no consequence to anything else that's going on. That's my opinion on Zack. Interestingly enough, though, there were indeed some who aren't big on Snyder's movies that still appreciated the Snyder Cut of Justice League finally happening. That was particularly due to wanting the fuss over it to end, but also due to the fact that one doesn't have to love Snyder's work to appreciate a years-long fan campaign that managed to convince the major studio to do what they wanted. A fan campaign that Zack Snyder manipulated and put together behind the scenes himself. Because if you think those fans just did that on their own without his help, you're deluding yourselves. Plus, the circumstances behind Snyder's exit from Justice League were mixed at best and made WB look pretty bad at multiple points. Yet, as tragic as his daughter's suicide was, you can't keep someone in a job because of that. I'm sorry, but that's business. While Zack Snyder's Justice League was by no means universally loved, it was clearly regarded as better than Buffy creator Joss Whedon's disastrous version. And many fans do wish WB would let Snyder come back and complete his vision for the DCEU. That seems highly unlikely to happen, even according to Snyder. But the sad thing is, if they had just quit interfering and let Snyder do what he had planned, his arc would be done by now anyway. And that's true, his arc would have been done. But he was the mainstream version of this franchise. That's why they were interfering, Screen Rant. That's why they were interfering, because the consequences for them, in a negative way, in a minus way, was so huge. So they had to interfere with what he was doing. Now, if he was in a little corner on HBO Max, it would be irrelevant. And this is why they removed him. We've got to talk about things logically in a balanced discussion. Zack Snyder had a 5-part Justice League story planned. It becomes well known in the years since the release of Joss Whedon's Cut of Justice League that Zack Snyder's version of the film was intended to be the third entry in a planned 5-movie DCEU arc. Movie 1 was Man of Steel, which served as the test run for Snyder's vision of Superman, and the second was Batman v Superman, which expanded Snyder's DC universe to include the entire holy trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Justice League was then kicked off a trilogy of films starring DC's most famous superhero team, which would have seen major events occur, such as a full expansion of the Nightmare and Future timeline, the death of Batman, and the rise of Darkseid to lead threat, the introduction of several Lanterns, and much more. One can, one can of course already see the seeds being planted for these events in the Snyder Cut of Justice League. My throat, leave me alone. One of the biggest departures from Whedon's theatrical cut, besides the wealth of Easter eggs for fans to discover, is the inclusion of the villain Darkseid. Despite not appearing at all in the 2017 cut of the movie, Darkseid is very much positioned as the larger threat and the looming antagonist behind Steppenwolf in the Snyder Cut. Sadly, it would appear that these dangling plot threads and character arcs will never be picked up, and WB is just going to move on with the DCEU entirely, apart from Snyder, that has led a fan demand to let Snyder continue. But barring a complete reversal from WB and Snyder's stated positions, the fan campaign seems unlikely to succeed at this time. Justice League 2 and 3 would have been produced at the same time. Now, this is something I didn't know. As confirmed publicly by Zack Snyder himself, the original plan was to make Justice League 2 and 3 at the same time. That would have certainly been quite the ambitious undertaking. Yeah, and I think that would have taken, maybe 2 years or so? But also not one that's unheard of for a big blockbuster franchise. This would have likely enabled Justice League 2 and 3 to release about a year apart, much in the style of the MCU's Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame doubleheader. Since Justice League 2 was originally slated for a 2019 release before Snyder and WB parted ways in 2017, that means Justice League 3 would have probably been initially slated for 2020. Imagine that. Oh, I would have loved to have seen it. Whatever we think, whatever we say, it would have been great to see it. However, a 2020 release might have become impossible due to the coronavirus pandemic and its various delays, which neither Snyder nor WB ever imagined would be a thing back when planning out Snyder's 5-movie arc. Still, even if COVID-19 would have stood in the way of the hypothetical Justice League 3 release in 2020, it still would have likely been done and ready to go for a 2021 arrival, once theatres were back open. With theatrical releases now seemingly back in full swing, that means Justice League 3 could well be in the theatres right now in some alternate timeline that Snyder fans would no doubt love to find a way to visit. It's an intriguing thought, but also a sad one for anyone who hopes that Snyder's DCEU vision will somehow be allowed to play out on screen instead of inside their imaginations. If WB let him finish, the Snyderverse would already be done. All of the above leads to one unfortunate but an unavoidable truth. If Warner Brothers had just let Zack Snyder be creative and continue to shape the DCEU in his own image, yes. But again, Screen Rant, is it Michael Kennedy? I can't remember. Michael, listen to me. His own image. A central universe that they want each film to make around $1 billion or around that mark and be well received and well critically acclaimed. They couldn't let him, as much as I love his DC movies, as a business, they couldn't allow that to happen. Come on. Let's be balanced here. DCEU in his own image, his planned 5-movie arc would be over or ending right now. Granted, what Snyder made definitely would have a large share of detractors since. As mentioned previously, Snyder can be divisive outside of zombie movies. Still, what Snyder planned might be preferable to the cacophony of product that has ended up compromising the DCEU library in lieu of his vision, which has had both big hits and big misses. Well, what big misses? Justice League. That's it. Birds of Prey was underwhelming in the box office, made a little bit of a profit. They didn't spend much money on that film, so it's irrelevant. So what are you talking about? Shazam was a hit. Aquaman was a hit. What are you talking about? That said, it's quite possible all 5 of Snyder's movies could have made big money. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman already raked in the bucks. Well, not enough bucks for the studio. And while Justice League didn't, that was with Whedon snubbed in for Snyder. If the Snyder Cut had released in theatres, Justice League may well have performed much better. Yes, it would have. Henry Cavill's status as Superman and Ben Affleck's status as Batman may also be in completely different places than they are today if Justice League 2 and 3 had been allowed for WB to play out in full. The idea of WB having let Zack Snyder finish his DCEU arc is a true butterfly effect kind of scenario, as the entire DC and superhero movie landscape could be conceivably look completely different had the two sides come to terms instead. Fans will be left to forever wonder what could have been and revel in all the behind-the-scenes peaks Snyder has given them over the years. If all the movies made the money the studio wanted, pre-Justice League, and they had the reactions that the studio wanted them to have, Snyder would have been left alone. The reason the studio interfered is because they wasn't making the money they wanted to make, and they weren't getting the reactions they wanted to get. And this is business, and this is what happens. When I was on the deli counter at the Co-op many, many years ago, if I didn't cut the ham the way the customers wanted, I would be out of a job. Although I did not cut the ham the way they wanted, and I kind of kept my job. Anyway, irony. Life's all about irony. We will see what will happen with the Snyderverse. This is the entertainment industry. Anything's possible. Never lose hope. So we go over to Indiana Jones 5 for an update. Indiana Jones 5's flashback fixed a problem with an old indie movie. There's no problems, and I know you're going to go to the Crystal Skull, but let's do this. Sarah B. Milner of Screen Rant. Bobcat, I'm back. Welcome, Bobcat. I just had to get rid of some trolls. Indiana Jones 5 uses flashbacks fixing a major problem with Crystal Skull, doing action sequences with an older version of Harrison Ford's character by Sarah B. Milner. Bobcat, we have spammers. Oh, yeah, I got rid of them. They've already tried it on Twitter. Now they're trying it on here. Basically, they're going to be wiped out on all my socials, and they're going to be crying, please unblock us. That's what trolls do. We love you. How'd you get all those women, Mickey? Go away. JDTBSB, the DC movies were earning money. The studio just wanted more. Yes, the studio wanted more, JDTSB, because they're a business. And they basically decide what they want to make from these movies and what they spend. And they spent about $300 million a picture. So they wanted to make more of a profit, which is understandable, of course, if you're a balanced individual. Reports that Indiana Jones 5 features flashback scenes fixes a major problem with the franchise set for 2022 release. Indiana Jones 5 needs to redeem the previous attempt to extend the series into the 21st century. 2008's Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Although Crystal Skull was filled with high-action pulp adventure, it also suffered from limitations, particularly the physical abilities of its lead actor, Harrison Ford, who was in his mid-60s when the movie debuted. Yeah, that's why they should have only made the 3 movies and left it alone, or cast a younger Indiana Jones and continue his adventures. They could have done that, by the way. Crystal Skull struggled with how to approach an old Indiana Jones, and the plot suffered because of it. But you know what? There used to be a TV show called The Equalizer starring Edward Woodward, who was kind of the same age, so he couldn't do the action stuff, and they got away with it. Crystal Skull saw Indy team up with his past partner Marion and her son Mutt, who Indy learned is his estranged son. But the basic premise was a spiritual continuation of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which saw Indy team up with his own estranged father, played by Sean Connery. The 4th Indiana Jones movie largely divided audiences who complained about its plotting, the similarity to the previous movies, and the lack of believability in key scenes. Believability, it's fiction. What are you talking about? Many reviewers commented that the lack of convincing action set pieces and an over-reliance on CGI hurt the film. I think the film's solid enough. It's not as good as the first 3. That's why they shouldn't have bothered making another one. Bobcat, 10 minutes till Loki. Oh, awesome. Despite the premise, I'll be watching it later, Bobcat. No problem about that. And I'll react to it on tonight's Big Mouth Live. Despite the premise of Crystal Skull suggesting Ford's Indy would take on more of a mentor role for Matt, Shia LaBeouf, similar to Connery's portrayal of Henry Jones Sr. in Last Crusade, Crystal Skull instead kept Ford in the thick of the action. The much older Indy still faced the dangerous fascist, now Soviets instead of Nazis, swinging into a windshield, firing a rocket launcher, and even in one particularly infamous scene, surviving an atomic blast by hiding in a refrigerator. The Indiana Jones movies are best when there's lots of heart-pumping action. Hopefully Indiana Jones 5 has found a way to do this convincingly with flashbacks. Yes, de-aging. They're going to de-age him, use another actor, use his face, and they'll have to use his voice. I just hope his voice doesn't sound too old. JDTSB, I remember The Equalizer. I love that series. It was a great series. I'm Edward Woodward. Join me as The Equalizer in a moment. Given Ford's age during the time of filming, Indiana Jones 5 will likely feature an older version of the Professor, one who may or may not be teaching, but almost certainly has retired from tomb raiding and treasure hunting. Set photos from Indiana Jones 5 hint that flashbacks are being used in the movie. But I don't think they're flashbacks. I think they're de-aging. I think they're flashing back to a previous time, but I think that's the movie. That's the central point of the movie. And they're going to de-age him for large chunks of the movie. We'll probably start off in his present, wherever that is, as an old man on a rocking chair or something, telling us a story. That's how I see this, which will allow Indy to be both the adventurer hero fans love and the wizened former college dean that Ford can most convincingly play. While Crystal Skull struggled to make its titular lead the focus of the action, Indiana Jones 5 can use flashbacks to have a much younger version of the hero, surviving death, defeat, defying feats. Meanwhile, the older Indy, being played by Ford, who is currently in his late 70s, can have a limited role in the action, as Connery did for The Last Crusade. Oh, by the way, Connery was in quite a bit of action, considering his age. So, you're a bit wrong now. How flashbacks might be used in Indiana Jones 5 is purely speculation at this point, since very little is known about the movie's story. It could hint at the story that's seen an older Indy finish a quest he began as a young man. There could be multiple storylines weaved together, taking place at different points in the hero's life. As Indiana Jones 5 nears its release date, the public will likely get a better idea of what to expect from the sequel. Given Ford's age, this will likely be the last feature film in which he plays the iconic hero. Hopefully Indiana Jones 5 can give the franchise a fitting conclusion. Yeah, and pigs might fly, right? So, Bobcat. Hang on, Bobcat. Bobcat, I watched this show called Impractical Jokers. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. So I want James Murray to remake the Indiana Jones movies in a really low-budget way with bad acting, lol. He did a skit with him as Indiana Jones. Interesting. I may not watch that, but I hope you get what you want. So basically, that's basically another remake, but in the form of a piss take. Bobcat, all right, gotta go watch Loki. See you, Mickey. Bye-bye. Bobcat, leave a like, everyone. Titans Season 3 BTS images show new look at Nightwing and Superboy by Joshua Alpin. And Superboy Joshua Alpin by Rachel Labonati of Screen Rant. New behind-the-scenes pictures for Titans Season 3 reveals fresh peeks at Nightwing and Superboy. The wait for Titans' return has stretched on for longer than expected, but the end is nearly in sight. The one-time DC Universe series concluded Season 2 in late 2019, and Season 3 was expected to arrive in the fall of 2020. However, due to the coronavirus pandemic delaying the start of production, Titans Season 3 won't premiere until this August. Production has been underway since last October, though. It is finally entering its final days. This time around, Titans will be available on HBO Max. For its third season, Titans will introduce a slew of new characters on top of the established cast. Barbara Gordon, Savannah Welsh, Scarecrow, Vincent Kofeiser, and Blackfire Damaris Lewis will all factor into Season 3's story. Additionally, Jason Todd, Curran Waters, is set to undergo a major transformation as he becomes a vigilante, Red Hood. All the while, Titans will see its titular team adjust to working together under the leadership of Brent of Fate, Dick Grayson, who finally took on the mantle of Nightwing in the Season 2 finale. With all of these major developments on the way, anticipation for Titans Season 3 is high. Luckily, cinematographer Boris Moshkowski has shared some new pictures from the last days of filming. In addition to revealing peaks at the set, fans are treated to some fun shots of Waits in his Nightwing costume and Joshua Alpin as Superboy. Check it out below. So this is one of Brendan, just having a laugh, chilling out, which is cool. We don't seem to have the picture of Superboy, never mind. Dick's transition into Nightwing role was one of Titans Season 2's biggest developments, and Season 3 will give him the chance to properly settle into his new title. He'll have his hands full with Red Hood and the arrival of Old Flame Barbara, which just might make his adjustment period a bit tougher. As for Superboy, it isn't quite clear what Titans Season 3 has in store for him, but after an eventful introduction in Season 2, he can finally chart a new path forward. With filming on Titans Season 3 approaching its end, fans can perhaps expect the first episodes to arrive on HBO Max in late August. The streamer has yet to give a concrete date, likely waiting for production to be completed before doing so. Should the August slot hold firm, official look at the season can start to arrive in July. In other words, the lengthy wait for more Titans is finally approaching its end. It's time to get excited about what's to come, and of course they will be part of the multiverse now, which is very exciting. DC Super Pets star-studded cast includes Keanu Reeves and Kevin Hart. Dwayne Johnson unveils DC's Super Pets all-star voice cast, which includes Kevin Hart, Kate McKinnon, John Krasinski, and Keanu Reeves by Adam Benz of Screen Rant. But DC Super Pets has revealed its star-studded cast, which includes Keanu Reeves and Kevin Hart, coming off the heels of the past successes like Aquaman and Shazam and Birds of Prey. DC seems to be moving towards a more loosely connected universe. It's a connected universe. It's not a loosely connected universe. It's a connected universe. With its next waves of films, which include Gunn's Suicide Squad and Reeves' Batman, as an animated film focusing on famous superhero pets, DC Super Pets is expected to be a deviation from the DCEU's upcoming slate of live-action features. It's an animated movie about super pets. Of course it's got nothing to do with the DCEU, you idiot. The project was first announced in 2018 with the Lego Batman movie scribe Jared Stern as writer-director and veteran animator Sam Levine brought on later to direct. The two previously worked together on Wreck-It Ralph. Ever since a 10-second teaser was shown at last year's DC Fandom, the project has been rather quiet. That was until Dwayne Johnson was announced as the voice of Crypto, the Superdog, last month. Now there are some more major casting announcements to report. According to a video shared on The Rock's Instagram page, DC's League of Super Pets has assembled in an all-star voice cast around the Black Adam actor. The cast includes aforementioned Dwayne Johnson as Crypto, Kevin Hart as Ace, Kate McKinnon, John Krasinski, Vanessa Bayer, Natasha Lenon, Diego Luna, and Keanu Reeves. Along with these castings, the video also mentions the film's release date, May 20th, 2022. So that's now 5 movie theatre movies for DC, which is very exciting. Watch the video announcement below. Ladies and gents and children of all ages, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our star-studded DC League of Super Pets, cosplaying our League of 2- and 4-legged heroes and villains. Our 7 Bucks producers have again partnered with DC Comics, I see, and writer-director Jared Stern to bring you and your family's superhero and supervillain fun and around the world. So Mikey Sutton says something interesting that we said, that it's rumoured that The Rock will actually be the next president of DC Films and replace Walter Hamada. Now, because he's pretty much the leader of this 7 Bucks production, he's very much entangled with DC production now. So maybe it's not that crazy that The Rock could be the next DC Films president. And that's very interesting, isn't it? JDTSB, not exactly how I want to see Keanu back in the DC. Well, his Constantine movie is in development, so that will happen sooner rather than later as well. So that's exciting. So this is just a bit of fun for families and kids and for people like me, because I love animation, and I'm looking forward to this movie as well. While Johnson will be voicing Crypto, Superman's superpowered canine, and Hart will be voicing Ace, the Bat Hound, the trusted canine companion of Batman, it is not clear which characters the rest of the cast will be voicing. The film's synopsis mentions a flying cat, so the film is expected to feature Streaky the Super Cat, but is it unclear who will voice Supergirl's superpowered pet cat? Other original members of DC's Legion of Super Pets include Beppo the Super Monkey and Comet the Super Horse, with the shape-shifting alien Protty 2 joining later on. For now, it remains unclear which of these super pets will also be featured in DC's upcoming film, but at least the bulk of the voice cast has been unveiled. After starring together in Central Intelligence and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle and The Next Level, DC's animated film will mark the next team-up between Johnson and Hart. With so much more yet to be revealed in terms of the cast and plot, this will be the first of many DC Super Pets announcements to come. So as I say, his 7 Bucks movie company, production company, is very much involved in DC now, so maybe he will be the next DC Films president. Very interesting. I've got a sore neck, man. Oh my God. It must be the aircon. Arrowverse's Batwing suit revealed ahead of Batman Season 2 debut. Batwoman's Caroline Dries has revealed 2 new posters showing Karis Johnson's Batwing, fully revealing the character's live-action suit by Rick Stevenson of Screen Rant. Batwoman's Batwing has finally been revealed in a set of new posters showing star Cameron Johnson in character's signature blue and black suit. Johnson has played Luke Fox on the CW show since Season 1, and fans have been waiting for his superhero transformation for some time. What fans? Now they can finally get a glimpse at what the Arrowverse's Batwing will look like in action. In the comics, the original Batwing was a man named David Zavimbe, who became part of Batman's Incorporated after meeting Bruce Wayne when he acquired his own suit. Zavimbe became Batwing and fought for justice in his home city of Tunisia, a fictional location set in a Democratic Republic of Congo. The character was later replaced by Luke Fox, the son of longtime Batman ally Lucius Fox, who fought crime in Gotham alongside other classic Batman characters. Since the beginning of Batwoman, that version of Batwing has been heavily teased. Now fans can finally see the new live-action Batwing in 2 gorgeous posters shared by Batwoman developer Caroline Dries on Twitter. The posters show Johnson's Luke Fox fully suited up in the character's signature blue and black. The new suit looks mechanized and pretty technological advanced, and given an exciting new spin on the classic character's look. Check out the new Batwing pictures below. Wow, he does look good though. He does look good. Look at that. Looks pretty awesome. And I think Camrus is one of the good things about Batwoman, one of the few good things about Batwoman. I say give him his own show, because the character is very relatable, by the way. He's probably the only relatable character on the show. So that's one of them. And there's the other one, and it looks pretty awesome. And they're right, it does look pretty techy, doesn't it? A bit more like Iron Man than Batwing. Wow. The Batwing suit has always been mechanically complex, and the Arrowverse version is no exception. Traditionally, the character also has wings as part of his suit, hence the name, which allow him to move around the city incredibly easily and get a bird's eye view of the action. The posters don't show any such wings, but bird's eye view of the action. The posters don't show any such wings, but the second one does show Batwing dropping from what appears to be a high height, suggesting he may be dropping down from a flight path for a surprise attack. Stylistically, the Batwing suit looks a bit similar to the mechanized armor Bruce Wayne wore in Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice, though obviously sleeker and less bulky. It's still not clear when Johnson's Luke Fox will suit up as Batwing on Batwoman, but it should be soon. Season 2 has already been packed with twists and turns. The introducing of the whole new hero should be exciting to watch. If this new suit is as strong as it looks in the posters, Batwing should be more than a match for the villains of Gotham City. Batwing will take to the streets alongside Ryan Weidler later in Batwoman Season 2. So that's kind of exciting, isn't it? I think so, although I don't watch the show. And we've got some casting news here, because John Wick 4 casts its star Bill Skarsgård in mystery role. Now, Bill's become a very, very successful actor. Of course, his father is a very famous actor, and it's all about kind of nepotism in Hollywood, as we know, by Chris Ager of Screen Rant. John Wick 4 cast Bill Skarsgård in a mystery role at one point. The highly anticipated action sequel slated to come out this summer, but it was one of the many projects affected by the coronavirus pandemic. Can I just say something? Who cares? Why do you keep on telling us this? To waste some words, right? After seeing its release date delayed to May 2022, the film has gotten back on track. John Wick 4 is scheduled to start production this month with a globe-trotting shoot that will take the cast and crew to locations such as New York and Japan. Head of Principal Photography Director Chad Zaleski has recently spent time filling out the supporting cast around returning star Keanu Reeves. So far, he's recruited Rina Sayama, Shamaya Anderson, and Donnie Yen to ensemble, with Yen said to be playing a character who's an old friend of John Wick's. All of these promise to be exciting additions to the John Wick universe, and they're set to be joined by at least one more big name. According to Collider, Skarsgård is in the latest to join the John Wick 4 cast, As was the case with Soyama and Anderson, details about his character are unknown for the time being. Skarsgård's filmography ranges from everything to indie dramas to blockbuster horror films to action movies, so whatever his John Wick 4 character calls for, he should be able to deliver a strong and entertaining performance. It will be interesting to see how he fits into the film's story and if he's aligned with John or more of a villain. With John and the Bovary Kings gearing up to go to war against Winston and the High Table, they will need all the help they can get. But it would be smart if John Wick 4 had a main antagonist assassin to serve as one of the primary obstacles. Considering how varied Skarsgård's past credits are, it's difficult to gauge at this juncture what type of person he'll play. He's made a name for himself as a diverse character actor. It remains to be seen if there are other additions to the John Wick 4 cast prior to filming. Besides Reeves, it's expected franchise veterans like Lawrence Fishburne and Ian McShane will return to reprise their roles, meaning an ensemble is already pretty stacked. While it's great John Wick 4 is introducing new faces to keep things fresh, it also has to balance that with continuing storylines and character arcs from the previous movies and make sure everyone involved is well served. Well, that's the director-writer's job, not yours. A case can be made for John Wick 4 would benefit from a little less mythology and world building, so it will be interesting to see how many more come on board. Why? That's just your opinion. John Wick 4 would benefit from a little less mythology and world building. That's your opinion, not anybody else's. Clearly not a movie fan, right? We're not going to take your fucking advice because John Wick's making loads of money. People are loving it. So obviously they're doing the right things. And the John Wick fans are happy. So we'll have no more interruptions from you. JDTSB, Beast Boy joining the Pets movie would be cool. Who knows? I think there'll probably be some lower tier human heroes in there as well. I think they may cameo in this kind of Super Pets movie, which will be a lot of fun. We will see. Bucky is the best MCU candidate for Loki treatment, says show writer. Exclusive. Of all the characters in the MCU, Bucky Barnes might be the one with an arc most like Loki's, suggests writer Michael Waldron by Rachel Abernathy of Screen Rant. Loki head writer Michael Waldron believes Bucky is the best MCU character to receive the same treatment as the God of Mischief, Loki. Tom Hiddleston first started off in the MCU as a villain for his brother Thor, Chris Hemsworth, and then all the Avengers, however, thanks to Hiddleston's nuanced performance, Loki evolved into a fan favourite character who manages to evade death time and time again. With Loki, he steps into the spotlight for the very first time in a series that will dig deeper into his characterization than ever before. Similar to Loki, Bucky Barnes, Sebastian Stan, is a Marvel character who has veered into villainous territory but remains a popular figure among fans. Bucky received his own Disney Plus series earlier this year. You call that Bucky's own series? Wow. You must have a sense of humour. With Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the 6-episode run delved into his lingering PTSD from his time as a brainwashed assassin. Though Bucky found some peace in the final episode, head writer Malcolm Spellman confirmed he still has some growing left to do. With all the attention now on Loki, Screen Rant got the chance to sit down with writer Michael Waldron, discusses the new series. During our chat, Waldron professed his admiration for Bucky's character and even likened him to Loki in regards to his inner struggles. He said, I love Bucky. I think Bucky's a great character like Loki. That's somebody who has a lot of trauma that they're working through. But there's a real vulnerability and likability there. So I like Bucky a lot. But we've got to be clear here, and I hope the show's not going to do this. You know, he is a villain. He knowingly did all the stuff and hurt all the people that he did. And I know he's got all these issues from being literally adopted by the king of Asgard, right? I get that. But no one conned him into doing anything, right? So I don't want this show to end saying innocent little Loki none of it was his fault. That would be outrageous. You can humanize him a little bit more, but be very careful what you're doing with this character. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier ended with the title switching to Captain America and the Winter Soldier to reflect Sam Wilson's Anthony Mackie transition into the shield-wielding hero. At the same time, many were surprised to see Bucky didn't receive the same honour. If anything, it indicates Bucky's MCU story isn't quite over. Much like Loki, he still has work to do with his own trauma. It seems likely Bucky will return for another project, though Marvel has yet to confirm which one. The best candidate is Captain America 4, though fans perhaps shouldn't write off an additional Disney Plus show. I think it will be Captain America 4. I think that's the best place for him. Bucky and Loki might have some things in common, but they also have plenty of differences. For example, Bucky is a lot more reserved, while Loki relishes in chaos and the grandiose. Starting this week, Loki will put that mayhem on full display. The series looks to be a far cry from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, further cementing how unique each Disney Plus show will be. Bucky got his time to shine, did he? And now it's Loki's turn to charm Marvel fans with his own journey. Big difference. As I said, Loki is a villain of his own making, and that's what he wanted to be. And Bucky was an innocent young soldier who got dragged in so many years in the future. He had no free will, so you can't really compare them, in my opinion. JDTSB, saw that costume earlier, looks good. Oh yeah, definitely. Sandman first look video. Neil Gaiman introduces Netflix adaptation. Oh yes, Neil's been winning friends and influencing people, not over on Twitter. But anyway, a new behind the scenes video reveals the first look at costumes and sets of Netflix adaptation of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman comic book series by Grant Hermans of Screenman. Netflix revealed a new video taking viewers behind the scenes of the production of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. Created by Gaiman, the DC Comics character first debuted in the second issue of his comic book series, which began in January 1989 and has continued to run over the past 30-plus years. The comic series acted as a launchpad for DC and Vertigo's Lucifer Morningstar to spin off into his own solo comic, which would subsequently be adapted into a series at Fox and Netflix. Development on the adaptation of The Sandman has been underway for 20 years, with the first efforts on film before turning towards television. A movie came reasonably close in early 2010s with Joseph Gordon-Levitt set to star and possibly direct, based on a pitch from producer David S. Goyer. Ooh, interesting. That version fell apart after the star departed due to creative differences. After 2 years of development, news of the series began rolling in with the announcement that Tom Sturridge would lead as Dream alongside Gwendolyn Christie as Lucifer, Kirby Howell-Baptiste as Dream's sister, Death, Boyd Holbrook as the Corinthian, Charles Dance as Roderick Burgess, and many more were added to the cast. As part of its ongoing Geek Week, Netflix unveiled the first look at its series adaptation of Gaiman's iconic comic book line. In addition to the sets and concept art for the series, the video featured interviews with Gaiman's Sturridge and Christie discussing the series and its source material. The behind-the-scenes video can be viewed below. We can't view it here because we don't want to be copyright banished, do we? But listen, Gaiman's been saying a lot on Twitter. There's been a lot of shade on his characters being more inclusive, but his characters were that way from his comics. He's not changing them for the series. So I can understand Gaiman's frustration at some people here. This isn't like he's just decided to do this thing and change these characters' genders and identities. No, this is the way they've always been. So I can, even though Neil does trigger me the way he speaks to people, and I think he could speak better to people, at the end of the day, I do understand his frustration. The idea of a Sandman adaptation has been a point of curiosity for many. Though a film franchise could undoubtedly explore some of its more intriguing elements and characters, the decision to shift towards TV allows for a better chance to examine the source material correctly. Not revealing Sturridge's dream in the behind-the-scenes video might come as somewhat of a disappointment for some, but to see the delight Gaiman is taking in his work on the series should be enough to tide viewers over for the time being. Now that Netflix has taken to slowly revealing the footage from the set of the series and production slated to conclude this month, better looks at Sandman should be coming right around the corner for fans, be it a collection of images from the series or an actual trailer of the 11-episode season. Further teasers will surely bring happiness in the coming months. In the meantime, fans can dive into the world that's spun off from Gaiman's Sandman with the latest season of Lucifer now available to stream on Netflix. And of course, Lucifer is getting its sixth and final season. So That's exciting. Where Loki fits into the MCU timeline. Loki will pick up with the God of Mischief both before and after his death in Avengers Endgame. And here's how it fits into the MCU timeline by James Hunt of Screen Rant. Here's where Loki fits in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline. The third of Marvel's Disney Plus shows Loki brings back Tom Hiddleston as the titular God of Mischief, following on from his disappearance with the Space Stone in Avengers Endgame. That movie fully introduced time travel to the MCU after it was first explored in Doctor Strange, and Loki takes things further, revealing the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, which keeps watch over the timeline and multiverse. All of that means the MCU timeline for our timelines is central to Loki, which feels particularly necessary after Avengers Endgame. That movie created several branches, and while most were closed by the time and the end credits roll, there were some discrepancies and disagreements over exactly how it all worked. That's something Loki puts right, but just where, or rather when exactly, do its own events take place, and how does it fit in to the timeline overall? Ronnie Dodge, morning, mate. I think Snyder posting that pic means nothing. Snyder being Snyder. Maybe you could have a point there. The answer to where Loki fits in the MCU timeline is a slightly convoluted one, because he teleported away with the Tesseract, creating a new branch timeline. Then Loki takes place after the Avengers in 2012, with the God of Mischief still a villain and several years away from redemption. However, the show is also releasing after Endgame, and it's clear that where Loki exists, those events have also taken place, because the time heist had to have happened in order for Loki to have teleported away, something the series shows and addresses. That puts it in a strange position of existing in several places of the timeline, or perhaps none at all would be more accurate. But it does make sense given the involvement of the TVA. The TVA operates outside of time and space, meaning it doesn't have to adhere to the same rules of the MCU timeline. While Loki teleports away into another timeline during Endgame, he's found by the TVA and taken to their headquarters, meaning that he too now exists outside the timeline itself. That puts the character in a fascinating position, allowing for several different possibilities where he might go next. Loki itself is expected to feature different time periods, as he hinted at by the show's logo, and so the character can be shown all across the MCU's timeline, rather than in one fixed point, even though his journey is more linearly picking up from that point in 2012. Marvel's Phase 4 is utilizing several different timeline tricks. Black Widow is a prequel set between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. WandaVision took place just after Avengers Endgame, but mimicked multiple decades. Eternals will span thousands of years. It's an approach that helps massively expand the scope of the MCU and naturally fits as it looks to open up the multiverse too. Loki works well both of those because of its ability to explore different timelines, including the many branches created in Endgame, while also creating new character art following on from the Avengers. And people say Flashpoint's going to be confusing. If this doesn't confuse anyone, I'll tell you what. If this doesn't confuse anyone, I'm an Oxford graduate, and I'm no Oxford graduate. Ronnie Dodge, apart from Snyder up to his old tricks again, he certainly is. Let's see what happens. The Rick and Morty showrunner is talking about doing a movie eventually. JDT, SB, I agree, saying Bucky and Loki are similar is a stretch. Yeah, they're not similar. One had free will, one didn't. But I'm worried about the Loki series in that context of them trying to make him all of a sudden this nice guy and a pure hero. That would be so bad. Ricky and Morty, no, you mean Rick and Morty. Why did they say Ricky and Morty? Rick and Morty movie will happen, says show producer. As fans wait for season 5 of Rick and Morty to premiere, the show producer confirms that a movie will eventually happen sometime in the future by John Delos of Screen Rant. While fans eagerly wait for season 5 of Rick and Morty to drop later this month, the show's producer let loose that the trippy sci-fi comedy will eventually be made into a movie. Season 5 of Rick and Morty was announced back in July of 2020 and is part of a long-term deal from May of 2018 in which 70 new episodes were ordered over an unspecified number of seasons. The newest season will consist of 10 episodes and will premiere on June the 20th, 2021, which is very exciting. Exciting! Stop saying excited, but it's exciting. Jared, what is your thoughts on Invincible? I saw the first episode, Jared. I haven't gone further than that, but I really liked it. I thought it was interesting. I don't think it's as groundbreaking as people say it is and it's the most amazing thing ever, but it's certainly interesting and the ending has a great twist. So I'll be interested in watching more. Rick and Morty is an animated sci-fi sitcom created by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon. Centered on the various adventures of the Smith household, the show consists of parents Jerry and Beth, children Morty and Summer, and Beth's eccentric and alcoholic father, Rick Sanchez. Storylines for each episode take the characters across an infinite number of dimensions and realities, all aided by Rick's mad scientist-type inventions. Over the course of the last 4 seasons, the show has received universal acclaim from critics and fans, spawning everything from Rick and Morty video games to comic book adaptations, to even an untold amount of merchandise. Based on its success, fans will be pleased to find out that their favourite show may eventually make it to the big screen. As told to Metro, Rick and Morty producer Scott Marder says that a movie will happen at some point. Marder sat down with writer Dan Harmon and actress Spencer Grimer, the voice of Summer, for a roundtable interview. The trio discussed the possibilities of making their show jump to the big screen. Marder is quoted as saying, "It'll be daunting. I wouldn't be shocked if there was one that comes down the pipe one day. I feel like every episode is a movie. I'd like to see what a movie would be. I feel like we've packed so much in it. It would have to be pretty epic." Jared, if you were to choose between Margot Robbie or Emma Stone, which one would you pick in terms of acting? Emma Stone every day. Emma Stone. Now, Robbie is brilliant, but Robbie's also a problem. Well, if we're just talking about them as actresses and not people who have got this alt-left extremist attitude, which I don't like about Margot, by the way. They're both equally great actors, but I think that Emma's got something special. And it obviously helps that she focuses on her work. She doesn't really get involved with social media. She's great. She was great, obviously, in, what's her bloody name? Cruella, that's it. She was great as Cruella. She's getting a sequel. That's kind of, I suppose, the Harley Quinn of Disney. And I think where her standalone movie was successful, Margot Robbie's Birds of Prey movie wasn't successful because of her political obsessions and her toxic commentary. But yeah, Emma Stone for me is a really, really good actor, and I've got lots of time for her. And yes, she's a much better actor than Margot Robbie, but Margot Robbie's fantastic too. While a Rick and Morty movie has not been officially confirmed, nor is it in any form of production, creator Justin Roiland has fueled the rumours by saying that it's more a question of when and not if. During the roundtable interview, Grammer explained her idea of how the full-length film could work by offering up the possibilities of a 3D interactive movie, no thanks, or even a 4D style flick, like the others featured in theme parks. Recall Shrek 4D at Universal Studios. That's not going to work as a film, though the plans for a film still appear to be in talks. The show's future on the small screen seems to be set, with Harmon mentioning that season 7 is already in the works long before the show's 6th season has even yet to make it to the air, which is brilliant. I just want it to run, and I'm sure you do. Based on the critical and commercial success Rick and Morty has seen over the last few years, it really comes as no surprise that a movie is being planned for later down the pipeline. The show has been praised for its inventive storylines and entirely original sense of humour. So it would be really interesting to see what the creative team behind Rick and Morty could pull off for a full-length movie on the big screen. Yeah, I think it's a matter of time, but a 4D movie interactive? No, I wouldn't like that. Right, we have some Blue Beetle news for you here. Warner Brothers' upcoming Blue Beetle solo movie is reportedly getting a release on HBO Max instead of theatres. Let's have a look at this. This doesn't surprise me, by the way. DC Blue Beetle movie will reportedly release on HBO Max. Warner Brothers' upcoming Blue Beetle solo movie is reportedly getting a release on HBO Max instead of sending the DCEU movie to theatres by Cooper Hood of Screen Rant. Warner Brothers and DC Films' Blue Beetle live-action movie will reportedly release on HBO Max. Fans of DC's comics have experienced the live-action films have experienced live-action films for decades, but it has only been in recent years that heroes not named Batman or Superman have been given a chance to lead their own films. The DC Extended Universe's strategy brought dozens of movies into development, featuring a wide range of characters. While not every film moves forward, characters like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Harley Quinn have become significant stars. One of the recent DC comic characters to receive a solo movie announcement is Jamie Reyes, aka Blue Beetle. Warner Brothers and DC Films began developing a film centered around the young Mexican-American hero in early 2021. It was announced that Charm City Kings director Angel Manuel Soto would helm Blue Beetle, the DCEU's first movie starring a Latino hero. Fans of Jamie Reyes were immediately excited about the prospects of a Blue Beetle movie, even though it was not clear when it will happen or how it will be released. According to a new report from LA Times, Warner Brothers and DC Films are planning for Blue Beetle to release on HBO Max. The news came as part of a rundown of HBO Max's future following the merger between Warner Brothers and Discovery. Blue Beetle is one of many mid-budget DC movies now reportedly heading to the streaming service. The studio does not confirm this, and the standalone film does not yet have a release date. It's not a standalone film, it's part of the DC Multiverse. Everything's canon now. WB has already been busy experimenting with releasing movies on HBO Max in different ways. Their entire 2021 movie slate is premiering in theatres and on the streaming service simultaneously. While that plan will change back into an exclusive theatrical release in 2022, it is possible that some films could still receive similar treatment. It is not yet known if Blue Beetle will be exclusive to HBO Max upon its release, or if it will receive a theatrical release of some kind. Warner Brothers might not confirm the release plans until much later, so fans will have to wait and see what ultimately happens. Jared, I've seen your TikTok videos and it makes me smile. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you, Jared. That seems like a very, very genuine appreciation, because sometimes you get people saying, I love your TikTok, and it's just not very nice because they're not really being very nice. But you seem very, very nice, and I appreciate your compliments, because all I do is be myself. And you could do that. You could do that yourself. Be yourself and get loads of views and followers. That's all you have to do. Warning, though, just like with me, you will get hate because people don't like people speaking truth and saying it as it is, right? Because we've all got to pretend to be moral and superior to everyone else and pretend we're always going to do the right thing. Nah, we don't do the right thing. We have thoughts in our heads, and if we've got partners, we think about sleeping with their best friends. That's how life works. We're ordinary. We stink after we go to the toilet. We have to spray in the room, right? That's how life works. So thank you for the appreciation. I'm just being myself. In JDTSB, what I want to hear from Marvel is when X-Men will have a movie. It looks like it's going to be a while. Although, don't be surprised if you get a surprise cameo in maybe No Way Home or something like that. So I think we'll see them first cameoing in one of the other movies. But I think they're really taking their time with this. They want to get it right, and I actually appreciate that. If Blue Beetle receives an HBO Max release, it will join Batgirl and possibly Static Shock as HBO Max exclusively DC movies. These three movies will star fan favourite characters who will also increase the diversity of superhero movie leads. DC has found success with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, so the decision to continue putting other possible breakout heroes on the small screen is surprising. Even if Blue Beetle does become an HBO Max original, hopefully the studios will still give fans a chance to see the movie on the big screen in some capacity. Listen, this is what they're doing, right? They're going to have 4 or 5 movies out and releasing in movie theatres, and another 5 DC movies on HBO Max. It's fine. Don't get upset about it. As long as we can see them, that's the main thing, right? Because they want to uplift their streaming platform as well as their box office revenue, right? That is good business, and I approve of it. And I'm really excited for Blue Beetle. The only time I've seen Blue Beetle is in Smallville. In that, I forgot the episode now, but it was written by Jeff Johns. That piqued my interest about the character, and I can't wait to see him. I always appreciate people being nice. You don't have to be nice. You don't have to give me compliments. But it's very nice if we get a nice community around here. I'm glad my TikToks are being seen. And I know that some people don't like my TikToks, but that won't stop me doing TikToks and doing social media because it's fun. I love expressing myself, and expressing myself is fun. Right. Loki director on the challenge of making a show about the 2012 version. Exclusive, Loki director Kate Herron reveals the challenge in reviving Tom Hiddleston in 2012 version of Loki for the upcoming Disney Plus series by Rachel Ulatowski of Screen Rant. I nearly said Labanotti because I'm so used to saying her name. Loki director Kate Herron has admitted it was a challenge to center the show on the 2012 version of Loki's character. Loki will premiere on Disney Plus on June the 9th. It's premiered right now, by the way, and has been the MCU's preoccupation ever since it was first discovered. The smooth-talking, backstabbing god of mischief was getting his own series. Despite being a newcomer to the MCU, Herron boasts an extensive knowledge and deep-set passion for Loki that matches Tom Hiddleston's own passion for his character. The duo promises to give a complex and nostalgic look into the character. The series will take place in an alternate timeline, picking up from the moment in Avengers Endgame when Loki disappeared with the Tesseract. Loki will meet his match in the Time Variance Authority, TVA, as they demand answers to his mischievous forays through the timeline. However, there seems to be an even deeper and darker threat lurking in the timeline that Loki and TVA agent Morbius Owen Wilson will have to face. The show's setting in an alternate timeline means that the Loki of the series is not the same Loki who sacrificed himself in Avengers Infinity War. There's literally different versions from different timelines now. It's kind of complicated. And I keep on saying, they're saying Flashpoint's going to be complicated. What they're doing is even more complicated. So I hope that in this Loki series, when I see it later today, it's well explained, and I expect them to do so. Speaking with Screen Rant, Loki director Herron opened up about what it was like to center the series on his alternate version of Loki and the challenges that came with it. The challenges comes with the fact that Loki has been part of the MCU for a decade, and as the years have progressed, this character has grown immensely. Thus, Hiddleston and Herron truly had to study and examine the Loki of the Avengers to ensure that they were holding true to that particular version and doing away with the newest Loki that Hiddleston portrayed in Infinity War. Check out Herron's statement below. I remember, even just with Tom, we would always be checking in with each other when filming that first episode in particular, because he is in a very different headspace. We would talk a lot about scenes from Avengers, trying to capture how he is emotionally and how he holds himself. I think that was really fun, and just the challenge of that really was bringing people almost back in time through Tom's performance to this very different version of Loki that we've seen, but we haven't probably spent as much time with yet. JTTSB and from DC Green Lantern. Well, I've said this before. I believe that Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan will both feature in the Flash movie, and they will both have their own movie that they're in together. So that's happening. That's why Snyder wasn't allowed to have his own Jon Stewart in the Snyder Cut. So the Green Lantern TV series, Green Lantern Corps for HBO Max, is happening. So DC and WB are going all in to Green Lantern and Ohar, and I can't wait, because this is DC Star Wars. Done properly, this could be so epic. As Herron describes, the series trying to pull off quite a tricky stunt by bringing back the old Loki. The Loki of the Avengers shows him at perhaps his most villainous and ruthless, whereas in the Avengers Infinity War, he was a hero, and the four films, he always teetered somewhere between villain and hero. Hiddleston has navigated the character through growth, sacrifice, and redemption, but he now has to unravel all of that, traveling back in time to once again bring to life the 2012 Loki. However, Herron and Hiddleston's effort to replicate the emotional state of Loki will pay off and reintroduce us to a version of Loki that we didn't get to see enough of. The alternate version of Loki is indeed a slightly confusing concept in the series. When Loki was killed in Infinity War by Thanos, fans had held on to hope that he would get one more resurrection. Unfortunately, Loki's death has thus far been final. Yes, my friend, his death is final, but all these other versions of him are back, which means Loki is back, so that death's irrelevant. Jesus Christ. And that is why the series is exploring an alternate version to continue his story despite his death. However, it cannot be denied that it was his role as a villain that originally won us over. It will be intriguing to explore what was truly going on within Loki when he was in his most bitter, conflicting and power-hungry phase. Loki may also allow viewers to witness and savour entirely new growth and redemption of the character. I can't wait to see it later on today. Let me say that again. Doctor Strange 2 and Loki writer on being custodian of the MCU multiverse. Exclusive. Loki head writer and Doctor Strange 2 scribe Michael Waldron discusses being the custodian of the Marvel Cinematic Universe multiverse by Grant Hermans of Screen Rant. Loki head writer and Doctor Strange 2 scribe Michael Waldron has opened up about being the custodian of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's multiverse. The third series in the Disney Plus realm of the MCU sees the titular god of mischief arrested by the Time Variance Authority after escaping with the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame. Loki is tasked with helping track down another variant who's taking out members of the TVA. Tom Hiddleston leads the cast for the series, which also includes Owen Wilson, my good friend Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Wamoni Musuka, Sophia Di Martino, Sasha Lane, and Eugene Cordero. The fifth film in Phase 4 of the MCU, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, will pick the story beats from WandaVision, Endgame, and the titular sorcerer will be forced to put his study of the Time Stone on hold to deal with a friend turned enemy, unleashing an unspeakable evil. Benedict Cumberbatch returns to the role alongside Rachel McAdams, Elizabeth Olsen. Wow! Are you telling me they're all in this? What? Wow. Endgame, the titular sorcerer will be forced to put his study of the Time Stone on hold to deal with a friend turned enemy. Hang on. Let's start again. The fifth film in the Phase 4 for the MCU, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, will pick up the story beats from WandaVision and Endgame, and the titular sorcerer will be forced to put his study of the Time Stone on hold to deal with a friend turned enemy, in turn unleashing an unspeakable evil. Benedict Cumberbatch returns to the role alongside Rachel McAdams. Now, I thought Rachel wasn't coming back for this. Or am I wrong? Is that another movie? Anyway, Elizabeth Olsen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Benedict Wong. And while Xochitl Gomez will make her MCU debut as America Chavez after original team Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill departed due to creative differences, Sam Raimi took the helm, while Waldron started over with the script, working from Jay Bartlett's original draft for the sequel. In an interview with Screen Rant to discuss the Disney Plus series, Waldron reflected on the multiverse nature of both Loki and Doctor Strange 2. Not ready to outright call himself the custodian of the concept, Waldron credited the other storytellers in the MCU with the ability to take ownership of their own tales and their larger ties to the expanding MCU multiverse. Check out what Waldron told Screen Rant below. I don't know. I think that everybody, all the filmmakers and writers of the MCU are all custodians of this thing because we all end up both creating problems and solving problems for one another. So if I can just create problems for myself and not for some other poor writer, I guess that makes life a little bit easier. As the MCU has expanded, Marvel Studios has done a solid job of bringing in new voices to the fold for their projects while only coming back to writers or directors if they bring unique angle to the material, including Guardians of the Galaxy's James Gunn or the Russo brothers. So to see Waldron not only get to show his chops with Disney Plus, Loki, but also with Doctor Strange sequel is rather impressive, indicating Marvel has a lot of confidence in his writing and ability to introduce the multiverse to audiences. Early reviews of Loki indicate Marvel's faith in Waldron hasn't been misplaced. Marvel stuff always gets good reviews, whether it's good or not. Okay, most of it is pretty solid. With Loki's arrival on Disney Plus, imminent fans won't have to wait long to see just how the series will continue. It's on now, infusing the MCU with multiverse inklings, though there is still a little under a year left until Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness hits theatres. It shouldn't be long before the first looks at the highly anticipated sequel arrive, with production having wrapped in April and the first looks at Chavez, Strange, Wong, and Wanda are already revealed. New material may come sooner than fans think. So is Wanda the enemy, the villain of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness? Maybe. We'll just have to wait to find out. Jared, something tells me Sam Raimi will make the best MCU film of all time with Doctor Strange 2. What do you think? Well, Sam Raimi really along with Bryan Singer, launched this superhero madness of films. It's them who started this craze. Singer's first two X-Men, one of the best, two of the best two superhero movies ever. Raimi's Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, two, if not two of the best comic book movies of all time. And I even love Spider-Man 3, even though I think the first two are better. I don't hate it like some people. So this should be an awesome movie. But why was Raimi really brought into this? And replacing Scott Derrickson, who obviously fell out with Kevin Feige. I feel they needed his permission to be able to bring back Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So they did a deal with him. He's a big Marvel fan. He's always been a big Marvel fan. He's a really nice guy who'll sit there in pressers and just talk for hours about his love for Marvel and Spider-Man. So he's great. So I think he's a custodian of his Spider-Man movies, and they needed him to come in. So he did this deal with them to do this film. So I think that's why, and I think, yes, this could be one of the best comic book movies ever. It sounds insane, and I can't wait to see it. Also, I think something's being developed with Tobey Maguire over at Sony to reprise his Spider-Man role and do a Spider-Man 4, and I feel that Raimi would direct that. So Raimi's back in superheroes, and we won't know what exactly is going on until Loki, which is on Disney Plus now, when we see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness next year. But Spider-Man No Way Home is the key one, where we'll see if Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man have a future, at least in the Sony Marvel universe. Very interesting. I do have my theories. How do I say that name? How do I know? How am I going to say that name? Miss Geek 77 sounds like it will be really good. I don't know how to say that name, but I've read your comments. Sounds like it will be really good. Definitely. Doctor Strange 2 is going to be awesome. Bring it on. Benny Cumberbatch, our very own Sherlock, who still says he wants to do more Sherlock as well. So that's very exciting. I can't wait to watch Loki. Mziki. All right, Mziki. Okay, I'll try my best. I'm not very good with these things. Mziki. Okay, cool. So I will be watching Mziki. Thank you. You are welcome. So I will be reacting, I think, to the first two episodes of Loki on tonight's Big Mouth Live. The Big Mouth Daily is this thing, as you can see, we give you updates, we read articles, and that's what this show's all about. It's gone on a lot longer today than it normally does, because I've had a lot of articles to read. I'm going to have to switch this aircon off, you know. Oh, I'm freezing. This never happens on Good Morning Britain, does it? Anyway, Ghostbusters Free Images tease new characters, a creepy house, and a proton beams. New images released from the upcoming Ghostbusters Afterlife showing of some classic and brand new aspects of the beloved Supernatural series by Mike Jones. A new series of images from the highly anticipated sequel, Ghostbusters Afterlife, reveal a creepy house, some new characters, and proton beams. Jason Reitman's official follow-up to 1989's Ghostbusters 2 just might be the sequel that Ghostbusters fans have been after for decades. The film offers a new cast, an all-new adventure that takes place away from the New York City setting in which every Ghostbusters film to date has taken place. After winning over audiences with the first Ghostbusters film in 1984, director Ivan Reitman brought back the lovable cast of the 1989 sequel. Unfortunately, that film didn't really offer the same degree of engaging comedy and action. Yes, it did. I loved it. I love Ghostbusters too. Don't be an idiot. Resulting in a financially successful but ultimately disappointing return. No, maybe it was a disappointing return for you. But for many of us, we loved both movies. So back in your box. In the years that followed Ghostbusters release, fans became increasingly desperate for a sequel. This desire to see more of the original Ghostbusters, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis. And Ernie Hudson was exasperated by the series co-creator Aykroyd, who consistently promised that a third film was on the way. However, the death of Ramis in 2014, as well as Murray's apparent disinterest in coming back for more, made the possibility of a sequel seem more remote than ever. Thankfully, Reitman's son, Jason, decided to keep the franchise in the family, and Ghostbusters Afterlife has consistently been touted as the third Ghostbusters film that fans have been waiting for. It's hard to say if this will actually be the case when the film finally arrives in November of this year. It is the case, but everything seen so far of the film has been enough to keep an even most cynical fan interested. The most recent glimpses of the Afterlife comes courtesy of IGN via their Twitter account. 4 new images have arrived offering a look at creepy-looking house, some new characters and proton beams. Check out the photos below. So here's one of a random character, which I'm sure we're really going to care about. This is the problem. We're just here for the originals, aren't we? So here's a picture of a house, which is supposed to be haunted. I thought this was someone snorting cocaine, but it's someone using the proton pack doing something. And I really don't know what that is, but I'm sure some of you nerds might know what that is. This time around, Ghostbusters is definitely adopting a more youthful injection in order to give the franchise new legs. What has been established is both Finn Wolfhard's Stranger Things and McKenna Grace, The Handmaid's Tale, are part of the new generation of supernatural investigators, with Logan Kim and Celeste O'Connor likely also a part of the team. At present, it's difficult to say just what form the Ghostbusters will take. But there's also been plenty of attention surrounding the fact that the surviving original Ghostbusters will make appearances in Afterlife. Aside from its cast, these latest images seem to promise the sort of adventure that made the likes of Stranger Things successful. That is powerful, otherworldly creatures that are tackled by a small but dedicated group of children. While Ghostbusters Afterlife doesn't have the big city, big problems vibes that the original films had, it strengthens likely laying precisely this sort of downsizing. Reitman has been particularly cagey about revealing what's to come in a new film, but it's already hard not to be excited at the same time. Ghostbusters fans might have come to terms with this latest sequel focusing more on the adventure and thrills of fighting the supernatural rather than the last that the original crew provided. Still, that's a fair trade-off. After all, no one can bring back the original comedic magic that Murray Ackroyd-Ramis and Hudson brought. By the way, it was funny, Ghostbusters originally, but it also had its drama and action and adventure. It was a bit of everything. It wasn't just a comedy. Bobcat, Loki was amazing. Can't wait to see it, Bobcat. Jared, Mick, can you talk about the deleted scenes from the air cut? I can. Bobcat, best first ever scene. Sam Design Reviews, I saw the first episode of Loki. Awesome, I hope you loved it. I'll be watching it later, and I'll be reacting to it on tonight's Big Mouth Live. Right, Jared, I can't tell you every scene that was deleted. I'm not that much of an expert. But let's talk. You're called Jared. You've got a picture of Jared Leto. I'm assuming that's your thing, right? So Jared Leto was so excited about doing this. I know that Jared comes from independent movies. Mr. Nobody's one of the best films I've ever seen. So brilliant, so random, so amazing. He's a great actor. And we were all excited for Jared to play the Joker. Unfortunately, a lot of his scenes were cut. The movie was cut. It was reshot. It was rewritten. Jared was betrayed. He was angry about this. He was frustrated. And the film wasn't what it was originally supposed to be. Now, most films are cut to pieces, let's be honest about it, in this system, but not like this. They were so scared of what happened with Batman versus Superman, they tried to make a Deadpool movie, as David Ayer has said. So in the end, from this Zack Snyder leadership, everything became divisive, people's work was cut apart, and it simply didn't work. And now we're all fighting to release the air cut, Jared, and I hope we can make it happen. Bobcat, best first episode ever. Oh no, it's not better than Lost. It's not better than the pilot of Lost, I'm telling you. Even though I haven't seen it yet, I'm still going to say that. Nothing will beat the first episode of Lost. Sam Duran Reviews, I saw the first episode of Loki. Bobcat, I've already read that. Bobcat, what a great character Loki is. And it's very funny. I laughed out loud multiple times. Jared, thanks, mate. You're welcome, Jared. Always a pleasure. Jared, Bobcat, I mean Marvel. Well, not hard, is it? Right, we have one more article for you, and that's that. Because I can tell you, my dad's waiting in the kitchen for a Turkish coffee. We're Greek Cypriots, by the way, but we make something called a Turkish coffee in a little thing. It's pretty nice, and he waits for that. So he's going to have to wait a little bit longer while I do this because I've got to give my subscribers and my viewers a bit of attention, right? Right, Superman and Lois, here's everything you missed in Loyal Subjects. The episode starts with Lois, Clark and Chrissy trying to figure out what Morgan Edge is up to and how the ex-Kryptonite is tied to the candidates. Lana has been rounding up for his leadership program. Cut to Edge asking Emily if she wants to become her best self, and Emily accepting the offer. Next we see that Lana is back to looking for candidates. Lois wants to stop people from working with Edge and hopes that Clark's history in the town will help out, since Martha has been helping people in the town for years. At the Gazette, Lana comes to see Lois and Chrissy. They quiz her on what's going on with this leadership program, and she can only tell them very general things. Lois tells Lana that she should take a break, but Lana is having none of it. At the high school, Kyle tells John and Jordan that he really appreciates them being there for Sarah. Oh, wow, I can't watch this show. It's so frustrating. She's talking to Jordan while Jonathan gets distracted by Tegan Wickham, the same pretty girl from the last episode. Clark runs into Emily at a diner, and when she tells him that Edge's program is helping her to keep a better disposition and cleaner mind and encouraging Clark to join up, suddenly Clark hears a bank robbery in progress in Mexico and flies there to stop it. But midway through, his power starts fritzing out. He's knocked out for a moment before getting back up to finish the job, but flies home clearly disturbed. What's going on there? Maybe someone's about to take over Clark's body as well. And that will be the prediction that John told us about. Sorry, is it Henry John Irons or whatever his name is, right? John Henry Irons, right? That's his name, right? Whatever, right? So that's probably what happened in the other world, in the Irons world, basically, that Clark's body was taken over, and that's why he was doing those horrible acts. Back at the newspaper, Chrissy tells Lois about the new ad Edge is putting into the paper, looking for twice as many candidates for the program. Lois charges into the staff meeting and tells the people there that Edge is planning to put Kryptonian powers and consciousness into people of Smallville. He tells her nobody will believe her, and she tells him that they won't publish his ad, but that doesn't concern him much. He encourages her to use her signal device to call in Superman, saying it's risky knowing that he's Kryptonian and that he's excited to find out who he would side with. Interesting. He's daring her to put her Kryptonian device on. He thinks Superman could potentially take his side. Wow. At home, Clark is icing down some bruises from gunshots when Lois comes in to let him know what's going on, and she freaks out. They figure out it's likely from the gas rochette hit him with, and Lois decides to call Sam. At school, Jordan and Sarah are flirting at piano when he starts sneezing and his hand is covered in icicles and his freeze breath has started to take hold. He rushes out the door, leaving her hurt and confused before he can get out of the school. Clark comes to pick him up, telling him that they have to talk to the DOD about the effects of synthetic kryptonite toxin. So it looks like Clark's been infected by the toxin as well, which is making him weaker, which means Edge could potentially put a Kryptonian soul inside him. It looks like what happened in the other world is happening on this world. At the farm, Clark explains to Jordan that the kryptonite weapon apparently gave Clark a communicable illness. Sam tells Lois he's working on getting a cure. At the school, Jonathan stops to see Sarah, who asks where Jordan is, and tells John about what happened. John promises to find him, and Sarah is worried because she's the first musical act up in the concert. At work, Lana bumps into Emily and chats her up a bit. Leslie comes to grab Lana and brings her into Edge's office to be pitched the same offer he made Emily. At the fortress, Jor-El's hologram tells Clark that they can get the kryptonite out of Jordan's lungs, but they will have to burn it out with intense heat. Clark consoles Jordan and holds him while the procedure happens. Wow! Bobcat, YouTube's great. It's like your own talk show. I know. Jared, what are the chances of the Batfleck movie happening? I think there's more chance of the Batfleck movie happening than the Snyderverse being restored because Ben has a great relationship with the studio Bobcat. Also, if the girl doesn't want to commit, then I don't have to either. I can go after other girls if I want to. If she doesn't want to take it seriously, fair enough. Bobcat, I'd say higher with the Flash at Jared, but he will probably be erased. But we have Pattinson now. Pattinson is not replacing Batfleck. He may not be erased and he may stay around. So wouldn't that be a shock to everyone thinking that he's going to be erased? But we'll have to wait and see. Back at home, John joins the family and Jordan is getting sicker by the moment. Unable to wait for Sam anymore, Clark flies Jordan to the fortress. Lois tells Sam that she can't trust him around her husband or sons anymore, so he needs to get out of her life when this is all over. Back at the farm, Jonathan tries to help Lois feel better about all the danger the kids have been in since Jordan's powers started to manifest. He assures her that Clark will be able to help Jordan. At school, Sarah can't find Jordan at showtime. Lana is sitting with Carl and Emily, and Carl sneaks backstage to help support her family. Sneaks backstage to help support her when she sees. Where am I? I'm losing my place here, man. Right. Post started to manifest. He assures her that Clark will be able to help Jordan. At school, Sarah can't find Jordan at showtime. Lana is sitting with Carl and Emily, and Carl sneaks backstage to help support her when she's ready to give up. Back at the Kent farm, Jonathan tells off his grandfather, calling him a coward for failing to have faith in Clark. Wow, that's awesome, isn't it? Halfway through her daughter's performance, Emily suddenly hears something and gets up to leave, confusing Lana and Sarah. Carl offers to follow her to see what's wrong. Back at Edge, Morgan tells Leslie that with Superman weakened, he has activated some of their subjects to take down Lois. Wow. At the fortress, Clark finishes Jordan's Kryptonian physical therapy. Back at the farm, Lois gets a call from Lana, warning her that Emily is acting weird. There is a knock at the door, and it's Emily standing with another subject, both of whom have that vision-powered angry red eyes of anger. They charge Lois and steal her signal device, but Sam Lane bursts in with a kryptonite gas grenade and keeps them occupied, while Lois and Jonathan can get to the barn, where John has squirreled away some of John Henry's weapons. Cole comes to the barn, where he asks what's going on, and Lois tells them Edge sent people to kill them. Cole powers up, and the other two knock out Sam and rush to the barn. At the fortress, Clark hears something and flies into the air with Jordan just moments after a heart-to-heart moment about the fact that Jordan didn't ask for any of what's happening to him. Is that it? Why won't it move up? Are you having a laugh? It's bloody frozen! Oh my God. Where are we? John Henry's right. That's about the fact that Jordan didn't ask for any of what's happening to him. Through a combination of John Henry weapons and Sam's and a timely appearance by Superman, the trio are turned away. Sam tells Lois that he's going to prioritize Smallville and the family now, and she tells him good because she's worried that the war John Henry was talking about is coming. In their bedroom, the boys have a chat about what's going on, and Jordan worries that Sam will tell Sarah. See, it keeps on. It's really messing me about now. In the bedroom, the boys have a chat about what's going on, and Jordan worries that Sam will tell Sarah everything. He calls her to try and get ahead of it, but she doesn't take the call. And Carl comes home to tell Lana that he can't remember anything that happened after he left the recital. Lana convinces him to admit that he accepted Edge's offer, and while she knows that's bad, Lana still isn't 100% in the know as to exactly how bad. Chrissy calls Lois, revealing that her research indicates that Leslie and the hotel attacker from the pilot were both originally from Smallville, meaning that it's the long-term exposure to X-kryptonite that makes Smallville residents receptive to the effects of X-kryptonite. That's when Clark hears the signal device and flies out to see who's paging him. It's Edge. In the closing moments of the episode, Edge, now outfitted in a black supersuit, reveals that he has powers, unlike his lab rats, though he doesn't have powers gifted to him by the X-kryptonite. Rather, he has had them just as long as Clark has. He calls Clark his brother. Then the episode fades to black. Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, disclaimer, I can't watch Superman and Lois anymore because it's not available to me anymore, how I was watching it. So I'm waiting for the Blu-ray box set when it comes out in several months. But wow, Morgan Edge has had powers as long as Clark, and he calls him his brother. What does this mean? Is Morgan Edge, and I know Zod was never Superman's brother originally, but could Morgan Edge be kind of an Elseworld version of General Zod? This show goes from strength to strength. It is becoming the best live action version of Superman ever. Talk to the wall. Wow. Jared, something tells me that Batman is going to be R-rated. I think so. Bobcat, all right, Mickey, I'm wide awake, so I'll be sticking around the whole stream tonight, lol. Bobcat woke up at 1:30 p.m. today and took a nap today, so this will be good to get my sleep schedule back on track at least. Bobcat, I might go to Bobcat to sleep later, but I'm awake right now. Well, thank you, everyone, because I've been on here for 2 hours and it's been great. I've updated you. We've read loads of articles. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for your comments as usual. I'm going to go off now and watch Loki, and I will react to that tonight on Big Mouth Live. And I can't wait to discuss Loki with all of you geeks and nerds. If you're rewatching this, comment down below. Like the video, share the video. Please subscribe. Hit that bell that gives you notifications. Share the channel as well. And I will see you from 6:30 p.m. UK time for Big Mouth Live. Follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad, and I shall see you later. Wow, that was an awesome stream. Thanks for the support. Bye-bye now.